He serves as the executive director of Into Action, number 2, and holds a teaching professorship at the University of Missouri's School of Social Work. With a wealth of expertise, Dan is a seasoned presenter and author specializing in topics related to prisoner reentry and substance abuse disorders. He's good at writing grants, and he secured a nearly $7 million in 2023 with 5 different awards. That's pretty amazing. The funds are dedicated to initiatives in Boone County aimed at reducing crime and enhancing public safety. And in his spare time, he likes exploring new destinations with his wife. He's a dedicated fitness enthusiast, and he can often be spotted embarking on early morning jogs along the streets and trails of Columbia. So that's half of our guests. Our other guest is Jessica Chambers, and she serves as the director of the Reentry Opportunity Center, or ROC. We've talked about this before. Here in our group. Over the past 5 years, Jessica has passionately devoted her time and efforts to championing the cause of those in need, advocating for recovery, and working towards reducing recidivism. That's a great word, recidivism. A dedicated advocate, Jessica has been instrumental in facilitating numerous recovery and support meetings, aiming to inform and support individuals by connecting them with resources across Missouri. To enhance her understanding and effectiveness, she has actively participated in multiple training sessions, equipping herself with knowledge, data, and a keen focus on community needs. Her engagement with individuals in the criminal legal system centers on addressing both their immediate needs and overcoming the barriers to success. She's dedicated to connecting them with the necessary support and resources essential for their journey to success. So we're really fortunate to have Dan and Jessica here today to talk to us about all the work that they do to help people who are returning to our community be successful and get over these barriers, which, as we're going to learn more, but I know you already know, are not inconsequential. So thanks for being here.
Are you ready to turn it over?
You bet. Go for it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It looks like I already have the permissions I need to do that. Can you all see my screen?
It is loading.
It's loading, right? It's not there yet. It says you've started screen sharing, but we don't see your screen yet.
It's a black square. Is that what we should be seeing?
Nope. Let me try again.
Yeah. There we are.
Go.
Got it.
Oh. Are we still good?
Yes.
Yes. Looks great.
Okay, well, my screen's looking all crazy, but that's okay as long as your screen's looking okay. As stated, my name's Dan Hanneken, and I am the director of Into Action, and we provide comprehensive residential transition support to people being released from prison. And I have with me today the director of the ROC, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Jessica Chambers, and I am the program director at the Reentry Opportunity Center. And our main focus is on helping people reenter society and successfully, as well as on their new journey to recovery.
So, just to get started a little bit, I always like to provide a little bit of context to the issue of incarceration and reentry and recidivism, things of that sort. I think people often don't understand how prevalent this issue is. So currently in the state of Missouri, we admit about 13,000 people a year into our Missouri prisons. We put about 33,000 either on probation or parole. I have a little bit of data, some of the demographic stuff up there. But maybe what's important to the Columbia-Boone County area is we typically get about 400 people a year being released from prison that are coming back to our community. So, I mean, the math would suggest that that's over a person a day. We've been doing that for a number of years, and we don't expect that to change for a number of years. And, I've had people ask me, well, where are they all at? If we're getting that many people, where are they all at? And my response would be, well, they might be living next door. They might be greeting you at Walmart. They might be, serving you through the drive-through or working at one of the factories that's making some of your car parts. But, that's a lot of people being released back into our community. One of the data points that's really unfortunate is that our recidivism rate here in Boone County, which is consistent with the state rate as well. The 3-year recidivism rate is 43%. And what that means is everybody who's being released from prison this month, give them 3 years and 43% of them are going to be back in prison. So not a really good business model when you think about it. It's pretty sad that nearly half of everybody that's getting out of prison will be back in 3 years. So I just want to get a little bit of feedback from you all. What do you think is causing people to go back to prison? What are some of your ideas on the issues that lead people back to prison?
I would guess that it's just so difficult to find someone to hire you for a job when you've got that record and you have to fill it out on forms and people just don't even give you the time of day. It can be really frustrating. And if you've got bills to pay, it'd probably be pretty easy to fall back into whatever illegal thing you were doing for money that maybe sent you to prison in the first place. Just desperation, I would think.
Yeah, employment is certainly a challenge.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I volunteer at the Booneville prison with the Alternatives to Violence program.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
a lot of the men talk about how they have so little support system. Even if they had a support system going into prison, a lot of that goes away while they're inside. And when they get out, they may feel like the only support system they have is the same buddies they were hanging out with beforehand, which leads them right kind of back to the beginning again. So
Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts?
Yes, I would just say one of the things that was particularly hard for me was having somebody come in for a state job, and we have right on the state merit system application is if you have a felony, you can't be hired.
Yeah.
And this person was trying to get into IT type of thing and had a whole booklet. They were definitely, trying to do what they could to make them sellable. And the other thing I think is that many times the family won't take them back, or they're not getting along with the family.
Yep.
I would think a lack of marketable skills might be a factor.
Yeah. Yep.
I would think that homelessness might be a problem too, and in a way maybe more comfortable to be in prison and have a place to live and eat than to be in the streets.
Yeah. Yeah.
we haven't mentioned substances, and that's a big part of it too, I think. That people had a substance use problem before they went to prison. They don't get treatment in prison. They may have access to a Narcotics Anonymous group or something, but they don't get the type of treatment that would actually help them stay off of drugs once they're accessible.
I recall a former director of corrections from Missouri talking to another group some years ago who was very serious about this. He was director twice within an interceding period. And he referred to it as a perfect storm of problems. Inside, what preparation for people to leave and go back to society and back to society's readiness to accept. And all the things mentioned were among them, and a laundry list of others.
Yeah. And that's a good point, and it's probably a good segue to something that I wanted to share. And we tend, and particularly as service providers, we tend to be somewhat siloed. And, if I'm working with the unsheltered, my position might be, if a person doesn't have a place to live, nothing else is going to matter. And if I work with an employment agency, I may feel like an employment first model is necessary, because if somebody isn't working, you can't really do anything else. And if I work for a behavioral health agency, for sure, if somebody's mental health condition is not managed, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be successful anywhere else. And I could go on and on, transportation and substance use and family support and social support. And I mean, the list just goes on. And the reality is, everybody's right. You need all of those things, or nothing else matters. The problem is, we're not going to be able to get people all of those things all at once. And if you get somebody all of those things except for one thing, then all the other things come tumbling down, right? If I can get somebody housing and a job, and we can treat their addiction and we can treat their mental health, but they don't have transportation, it's just going to come tumbling down. And the same's true if you get them everything but housing. So you can just kind of move it around. So, and for sure, when people are released from prison, they do have all of those needs most of the time. But what we have found at Into Action, and I think what the research supports, is addiction, substance use disorders is probably one of the biggest risk factors. And it's a risk factor to go to prison, and it's a risk factor to return to prison. And that the good news and the bad news with substance use disorders, the bad news is we've criminalized it, right? I consider substance use disorder to be a mental health condition. Our nation has historically treated it as a crime that led to the mass incarceration. Most of the people that we have in prison, depending on which data set you look at and what experts that you're talking to, the estimates are anywhere from 85 to 95% of the people that we have in prison are there either directly or indirectly related to addiction and drug issues. That's the bad news. The good news is we can treat addiction. And that's really good news that's an issue that can be treated. And we put most of our eggs at Into Action in that realm, that in most every case, if we're able to effectively treat the substance use disorder, we do not see people going back to prison. When we're not successful in treating the substance use disorder, that's when we see people that even come through our program return to prison. So, on my slide right now, we're the research for recovery and recovery supports is really starting to pour in. And I don't have time to talk about it today, but there's a real distinction between treatment and recovery. And what we do at Into Action is recovery. It's a much more comprehensive approach to human flourishing, generally speaking. And we're looking at long-term outcomes. We're looking at long-term recovery where people, abstain from using drugs, not for 30 days, not for 90 days, not for a year, but they find a new way to live and they don't return to it at all. And they don't typically find themselves back in the criminal legal system when that happens. So two of the greatest predictors for long-term recovery, which might be surprising, and it's not clinical at all. And to be fair to the clinical world, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I teach people how to be licensed clinical social workers at the university. And there's certainly a role for that. But I think recovery and recovery supports is too often overlooked. So the two greatest predictors for recovery, long-term abstinence from substances for those who have been diagnosed with a substance use disorder is the amount of time with others in recovery and the amount of time spent doing meaningful things. And we do a lot of that at Into Action. Most of our staff are people who have been there and done that. And I have two different responses when I hear things like even the state of Missouri, who wants to act like employing people with felony records is a priority, will disqualify those same people themselves. That's frustrating to hear. The good news is it's almost a prerequisite to get a job at Into Action. And we have 20 staff at Into Action, and it's like, you've never been to prison. How are you going to help our guys? Is going to be my response. So we love hiring. We love hiring our graduates, and we love hiring people that are in recovery themselves and have a criminal background. I want to do a quick little mental exercise with you all, and that is just take a moment in your mind to think about a really hard time that you've had in the past that you were able to get through. Something that you went through that was really, really tough. And I want you to think about how you got through that. And in most cases, if your story is anything like mine and a lot of other people, when we really think about how we got through the rough stuff, we got through it because of people, not because of interventions, not because of books, not because of classes, not because of knowledge or information. We get through the hard times because we have people in our lives, right? When we think about how we got through that rough stuff, we're almost always going to think about people and nothing else. Into Action is rooted in what's known as a social model. And a social model is one that's very focused on relationships. It's very focused on community. It's very focused on a sense of belonging. I'm not going to get into my story too much, but I can tell you that I spent over 10 years in prison. I've been released 3 times. So obviously 2 of the times were not successful. When I have left prison all 3 times, I did not feel a sense of belonging. I felt like it was me against the world. I did not have a support group, and I really felt all alone, even though each time I was released from prison, I certainly did not want to go back, and I had no intention of going back any of the 3 times, but I wasn't able to handle the community and all of the pressures of society. So one of the big differences between a social model and some of the ways that we have done things for so long is, we've, in case you all haven't noticed, as a nation, and when we break it down into all of the different fields that we might be involved in, we have a tendency to overcorrect, right? We swing one way a little bit too far, then we swing the other way a little bit too far. And I think recently, over the past decade or two, I'm concerned that maybe we've swung a little too far on this individualized care for people, that we almost want to pull people out of their social environments, pull them out of their community, isolate them, and find out what's going on with them specifically. And we're going to treat you as an individual, and we're not going to incorporate everything that's going on in your community and in your environment. The social model looks at it differently, and for sure, individualized treatment plans and individualized interventions don't neglect completely the environment, but there's a real emphasis on the individual. What we do at Into Action is we flip that coin, and the real emphasis is on the community. Okay, and it starts with our Into Action community. We have 55, 60 beds among our houses, and I have a quick video that I'm going to show you here in a minute, and you'll get a little glimpse of where we do what we do and what that looks like. But the behavior modification and the interventions that we're looking at is, how does your behavior affect everybody else at Into Action? You know, how can you become part of this community and be a positive contributing member of this community? And once people learn how to do that in a smaller context, they're able to generalize that information into the larger community as a whole. So this is a picture. This is a picture of some of our guys, and hopefully this video will work. Well, for some reason, that is not going to work. I think I can switch gears here really quick. And you know, it always works on the test drive.
Dave, do you have any helpful thoughts?
Well, I'm looking for it on my Zoom. I don't see it on the menu. There's usually a setting where you need to hit to share video as opposed to just sharing your screen, but I don't find where that is anymore.
Let me see.
Oh, advanced sharing options. No. Nothing I see here that helps. Sorry.
Oh, here it is.
We are seeing your closed captioning. I don't know if that interferes or not.
The social model in action, is that what you're looking for, that picture?
Yep. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
I'm-
Now,
all right.
let's see if there it runs. Good.
Director of Into Action. As we strive to help people recently release.
Crank the audio up a bit.
Here at Into Action, we adhere very closely to what is known as the social recovery. In a nutshell, that means the transition support we provide to those we serve takes place as much as possible in the natural environment. So instead of being located in an institution or facility, we do our work right in the community, the same places these people will one day work, play, and perhaps even raise their families. Into Action is a completely voluntary, faith-based, and state-certified treatment program. The men we serve come to our program the day they are released from prison, and they progress through a three-phase process, which begins with lots of structure before they gradually take on more and more responsibility of their own.
Into Action helped me to find strength, courage, to come closer to God.
The minimum suggested length of stay is 3 months at Into Action. However, it's the 6-month mark that appears to achieve the greatest outcomes. And it's not uncommon for people to stay a year or more. The success rates here at Into Action are nothing short of amazing.
Welcome to our virtual tour of the Into Action campus, conveniently located in Northeast Columbia here in Missouri. The first day in the program, new residents will receive any basic needs, including food, clothing, hygiene items, medications, and even a cell phone, to name a few. They are then given new bedding and moved into one of our Phase 1 houses. These houses have been remodeled to specifically meet the needs of our newest members. Both the Shiloh house and the barn house are very large. There is plenty of room for 2 to 3 people in each of the bedrooms. With several kitchens and bathrooms in each house, there is rarely a time when any resident would need to wait for either. While in Phase 1, we really begin to emphasize a sense of community and belonging. So it's not uncommon for our men to be seen cooking dinners together or participating in various activities as friends. Our goal is to make Into Action as home-like as possible. One deviation, however, from the home-like feel would be our life skills classes.
What was Trey talking about?
Each Phase 1 resident is required to complete 4 weeks of these classes before obtaining a job and being moved to a Phase 2 house. Daisy's house is our Phase 2 house, and it is also a very large house with shared rooms. The men go from a 6 p.m. curfew to an 11 p.m. curfew and are granted additional privileges after completing Phase 1. The men at Daisy's house are working full-time. However, they still manage to stay connected at Into Action, and they are regularly visiting with and mentoring our newer residents.
The best success in Into Action happens when all the staff go home. It happens inside when we're having a barbecue or we're on a float trip. It's that social model. That's why Into Action works.
Phase 2 takes a minimum of 8 weeks. Once in Phase 3, our residents either move to our duplex or one of our 1-bedroom apartments. In this final phase, men are preparing to leave the program completely. In Phase 3, the men are expected to serve as role models for everyone else in the program. What has proven to be very beneficial at Into Action is all our houses are adjacent to each other and located on nearly 4 acres with lots of green space and a pond. Our sense of community is greatly enhanced by the sheer closeness of everyone. A newer resident who got out of prison yesterday probably has a roommate downstairs who got out a month ago, and someone next door who got out 6 months ago, and someone across the street who got out 2 years ago. And it's when all these people get together and do life together that we see the magic happen. I do hope you've enjoyed our virtual tour of Into Action, and I realize it may have sparked more questions than answers, but feel free to visit our website for more specific information on exactly what we do and how we do it.
Let me jump back to my slides. Am I back to my slideshow?
Hello, I'm Dan Hanneken, the Executive Director of Into Action.
Now that link works, of course. Thank you, Zoom.
Oh, did you guys not get to see that video?
Oh no,
Yeah, we
it
saw
worked
the
the first
video.
time, and then of course you came back to your slideshow, and then it started playing probably because we heard it again.
Oh, that could be
silly technology.
Yeah. Are you on the slideshow now?
Yes, we see the slideshow now. The slide
Okay,
is
great.
social model in action.
Yep.
And there's Into Action.
Okay,
Good.
so you know, the big question is, and for me, because I do have a little bit of an academic hat that I wear at times, you know, it's like, are we making an impact? Is what we're doing making a difference? You know, sometimes when people on the outside look at what we're doing, particularly a social model that emphasizes a lot about relationship, emphasizes there's a big push on learning how to have fun in recovery. We do monthly activities and, you know, a float trip, camp outs. We take trips to Branson. We go zip lining. We do high ropes. Just a lot of stuff. And I'm not typically a huge proponent of having fun as a method for behavior change, but incorporated with all that is meaningful intervention. And here are the recidivism rates that we see. we measure recidivism as a function of length of time in the program. So we have a completely voluntary program. Nobody's forced to come into action. Nobody's forced to stay at Into Action. You can leave anytime that you want. There are times that we have to ask people to leave because of their behavior. There's times people leave before we think they're ready to leave. We don't like to use terms like graduation or completion because that can sometimes send the wrong message. Recovery is a lifelong process, and we don't ever finish or complete or graduate that. People that come to our program are welcome to stay pretty much as long as they want. It's usually around the 18-month to 2-year mark that we'll begin to talk to people about, hey, this isn't a permanent destination, because people will get really comfortable. But generally, I think the average length of stay is a little over 6 months. That's not, take that with a grain of salt, because we do have people that stay for a couple years, and then we have other people that leave a week after they get there. But you'll see our recidivism rates for people that stay in our program for just 3 months. The recidivism rate goes from 43% to under 10%. And people that stick around for 6 months, their recidivism rate drops below 5%. Let me be clear. We are not creaming the crop. We deal with some of the toughest of the toughest. And because I am one, I'll use language that the rest of you can't use. And that is, we go after the hard to crack nuts. The most likely to succeed are probably going to be just fine without us. That's not who we're trying to serve. We serve the highest risk offenders that have the highest risk of recidivism, and these are the rates that we're getting. So I want to transition a little bit here, because Into Action is a residential program, but we have about 400 people coming back to our community each year. Into Action can only serve about 100 of them. And the other 300 need a lot of their services. They just don't need a place to live, which is good that they do have housing. And that's what we're doing with the Reentry Opportunity Center, or the ROC. So I want to turn this over to Jessica to talk a little bit about what we're doing at the ROC.
Thank you, Dan. So I just want to first start off by saying that we have served over 1,500 clients at the ROC. Our resources go as far as helping people with mental health issues, because sometimes those are some of the issues that we didn't mention earlier, like trauma. So people need help with trauma. So we'll get them enrolled with Burrell Behavior Services, maybe Compass Health. Even the health department can help with some of the things like that. We help individuals get bikes. If we can't provide them, we have another resource where we can refer them to. We also help with phones as well. Jobs, dental assistance, clothing vouchers. We connect with Love Columbia. We help individuals receive birth certificates, identification. We can help fathers get enrolled in fatherhood programs, such as the Good Dads program, which we offer here at the ROC. We also help with individuals who may be homeless. We have resources that can help them with shelters or clothes or food or whatever it is that they're in need of that they might need assistance with. We have connections with Job Point, which not only offers the job, but it helps them with a career where they will be certified within weeks, and they can go out instead of going to college for years. They can just go to Job Point and receive a good certification that's going to carry throughout life. So that'll make it easier with going to get employment. We have a connection with Salvation Army, which will offer clothing, shelter, even birth certificates from out of state, which may be a barrier for individuals we serve. We also help with professional development, such as a person comes in, they've been in prison maybe 15, 20 years, and they don't know how to do a resume. Well, we can sit down with them. We'll help them build that resume. We help them with language to put in the resume and how to structure that so an employer will actually take a look at it. CMCA, community outreach, they offer people with utility assistance, rental assistance, gas assistance. So if they don't have that resource, they can come here and receive information on that, and we can get them connected. We also connect with vocational rehab, rehabilitation. So they offer a plethora of services. So that is useful for the clients we serve whenever they want to start their own business or they want to go to college. They can help assist them with that. The Voluntary Action Center is a close person we have on call as well, because they offer a broad availability of services as well. Recently, we have just connected with Upward Mobility, where they're going to connect with me to help me find landlords that will rent to people who have a criminal background, and also just find resources for the people who we serve. Boone County Resources is another person that we connect with. Maybe a person's child is in foster care or maybe adopted out and they want to see their children. We try to work closely with these individuals so those barriers won't stand in the way of their success. And one thing we really didn't talk much about earlier was trauma. Trauma is one of the main reasons why people will go back to prison. It could be trauma from childhood. It could be trauma from when they were in prison. People need to, they need to be aware of what's really going on. And if they're not aware, then they can't take care of these things. So not only do we offer those services to the mental health services, we are peer supports here as well. And we have experienced what these people may have experienced as well. So just having us as a safe place to come to is a resource, because we can talk to them about what we have been through and help them get through what they are going through. We also assist people. We will tell people about NA and AA meetings all over Boone County. We know where they're at. Also, we have our own winter circle here on Wednesday night so people can come and join in, as well as probation and parole. We connect with probation and parole every day. They're sending referrals over so that we can connect with their clients and we can give them that coaching and the reentry support that they are looking for. These things and these issues are very, very major, in the community. You have to have somewhere like this to give you another place to call home, basically. And that's it about the resource part. But so our community center, we actually have pool tables, we have dart boards, we have ping pongs, basketball goals, we have a lounge where people can just lounge and they can watch over 50 different channels, Netflix, Hulu Hoo, Sling, you name it, they're watching it. Also, we're just like family here. When someone comes through our door, they are welcome and we make them feel at home. There's no judgment when you come through that door. We're not judging you. We just want to help. We have a peer support on staff, peer coaching, employment specialists, and we just like to build relationships with the individual as soon as they come in the door and encourage them, motivate them, and help them with different responsibilities they may have not ever had to deal with. We know what it's like. At our center, we have also we help people build goals. We start off, we ask them their goals. We do an assessment with them, and then throughout the community part, we talk about those goals. We talk about what relationships they're working on. We're more like a new people, place, and a thing. I don't know if you guys heard that saying before, but in reentry and recovery, you need new people, you need new things, and you need new places. And that's exactly what our community center is about. We treat our individuals like family. We have events here. We have a recovery games where people from all over Boone County come in, and there's a picture there. If you see with all those people just standing, that is our recovery games, and everybody is dancing. We have music playing. We're barbecuing hot dogs and hamburgers, and it's just a community. We also offer recovery bingo. Every year on New Year's, we have recovery bingo, and the turnout is wonderful. Like, people are enjoying it. We offer snacks and provide drinks for everyone can have a good time and a safe place to enjoy, you know, recovery. But we just want people to feel at home and have a community to turn to. Do you guys have any questions about the Rock?
Where are you located?
We are on 2108 Paris Road. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the old Maytag building is the same building where we're located.
Got it. Thanks.
You can come in anytime and check us out if you like.
And that's where your community center is also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Any questions from you all with regard to Into Action or the Rock?
How many people do you see in a month?
Is that here at the Rock or?
Yes.
So we have we write down everyone that comes in. So sometimes we'll have up to 300 people visit the Rock. It doesn't necessarily mean we serviced all of them. They might just come in and have a question, or, you know, want a list of landlords. Oh, I didn't mention that. A list of landlords that may rent to them. And we'll just give them the list or whatever it is they're asking for, but about 300, up to 300, let's say that.
Oh, you do. It sounds very impressive.
Well,
Helpful.
thank you very much.
One of the things that we're excited about the Rock, and you know, I'm always skeptical of one-stop shops, and that, you know, that's kind of what we're hearing about, more and more one-stop shops. At the Rock, we want to be the one-stop shop, but as Jessica mentioned, we're collaborating with all of the experts. You know, we collaborate with Voc Rehab and Job Point when it comes to serving people that need employment support. We're collaborating with Burl and Compass when it comes to people that need behavioral health support. And, you know, Columbia has so many great resources, and we have so many agencies that are really, really good at what they do. When we say we function as a one-stop shop at the Rock, what we mean is that you just need to come into the Rock to get plugged into all of the resources available in Columbia. We're not providing a lot of services directly other than peer support and coaching, but we're getting them connected to all the resources.
Can I go ahead and ask? What I wanted to ask, it sounds like the Into Action may be limited to males. And I'm wondering if the Rock has both females and males, or whether it serves primarily males too.
We serve the community, so everyone's welcome.
Okay.
We adults.
Yes,
we serve adult men and women at the Rock. And certainly we have people come in with their kids, and that's fine. We just don't don't provide services or connect youth to services. And yes, we're predominantly men at Into Action. A lot of our residents are really advocating for a co-ed model. I'm not ready to go there yet. However, we do have a women's treatment courthouse, so we collaborate very closely with Boone County Circuit Court in their treatment court programs, and they expressed a need for women's housing for treatment court participants. And Commissioner Clevenger talked me into going down that road, and we're doing it, and it's actually working very well.
Can you explain that a little more? I don't feel like I understand it.
Yeah, so treatment courts are an alternative sentencing program. And what that means is it's like a diversion program. So when people are being charged and convicted with a crime, If it's related to substance use, for example, the court may decide that it might be in everybody's best interest if we connected this person to treatment services instead of sending them to prison. So it's a court supervised community intervention. So Boone County is absolutely on the national stage when it comes to treatment courts. We should all be very proud of our courts here in Boone County. Probably started with Judge Carpenter back in the day, and it's just grown from there. So we have a treatment court for substance use disorders. We have a mental health court where people may be in the criminal legal system because of their mental health diagnosis. So instead of sending them to prison, we may send them to treatment in the community and just heavily supervise them. We have a DWI court. We also have a veterans court where sometimes PTSD or traumatic brain injuries will present themselves in a way that people end up in the criminal legal system. So it's we're excited to be partnering with the courts, and our role with the treatment courts is providing that safe housing at no cost to the participants.
All right. Alice and Ruth asked a question in the chat, and after anyone is off of probation or parole, except for limited to like 2 different types of crimes, they can actually vote after they're off probation and parole. And we are a voting center here at the Rock. You can come and sign up to vote. So yes, we do assist with that.
Fantastic. If I can ask a question, I'm curious about sort of the relationship between the services you all provide and the state's efforts to prepare prisoners to leave prison. Do you interface with them? Do they refer people to you? Or I know at Booneville, they have several programs that are ostensibly trying to help prepare people when they get out. But I didn't know if there was any handoff there, or if the people are just have to find you on their own.
Well, the people are aware of us, that's for sure. So I used to work for the Department of Corrections, but before we launched Into Action and the Rock. I can tell you I'm a big supporter of the Missouri Department of Corrections. I believe they do what they can do to best prepare people for release, but I also believe that we put a lot of expectations on our prisons that they probably weren't designed to provide. When it comes to what prisons were designed to do, they're really good at that. Very few people get away. They make national news when they get away, right? And that's really what prisons were designed for. And over the years, we've tried to make them anger management treatment centers. We've tried to make them mental health treatment centers and substance use treatment centers. And the priorities that they have within the Department of Corrections really restrict their ability to be effective with those types of services. It's a non-voluntary, really adversarial type environment. It's not a therapeutic environment whatsoever. To get back to your question, both the Rock and Into Action collaborate very closely with our Missouri prison systems. Into Action has an in-reach coordinator that we begin going and visiting inmates up to 4 months before they're even released to come to our program, so those relationships can be established. Jessica and her team at the Rock go to a lot of the different job fairs and some of the other opportunities where the prisons invite people from the public. But I really believe that reentry is much more of a community issue than a Department of Corrections issue. The communities, I believe, are the ones that really need to step up their game. I think the Department of Corrections is doing a pretty good job given their budget and what their main mandate is. And I think we're doing a pretty good job here in Boone County. We're absolutely recognized at the state level, and Into Action and some of our efforts are getting recognition at the national level for sure, which is evidenced by some of our most recent grant awards.
Couple of questions, which have to do with data. You've spoken almost entirely about the Missouri Department of Corrections retirees. And I take it that you do not serve those who are released from Boone County Jail or others, which is not a prison, but a jail. Is that correct?
No, we absolutely serve people who are being released from the jails. It's a little bit tougher population to serve because jail releases are not often scheduled. If for those of you that are familiar with the way it works, it's just, a lot of people in jail think they're getting out every time they go to court. And a lot of times they don't get out when they go to court. And then some random day they go to court and the judge says, okay, I'm going to release you time served, or I'm going to release you on your own recognizance. And there's a really quick turnaround. They go back to the jail, they get processed, and they walk them out the front door. The good news is we're working very closely with Janet Thompson and Boone County and the Sheriff's Department. So, you may have seen an article in the paper just this week with the Missourian, and we're looking for a justice coordinator. I've been very active with Janet, advocating at the state level to get peer navigators in each jail that can begin to develop relationships while they're in jail, begin to work on transition planning, even though we don't know exactly when they're going to get out. And then the expectation, and I met with the Boone County Commission earlier this week, we expect once we get our coordinator in place and once we get our peer navigator hired, the peer navigator is actually going to be housed at the Reentry Opportunity Center. So that peer navigator, when that judge does say, I'm releasing you today, the peer navigator will already have a relationship. They can go pick the person up from Boone County Jail and take them straight to the Rock, and we can begin to get them connected with resources.
Second question, if nobody else has one. Second question is the characteristics of the 100 or so of those you serve from among 400 or larger than 400, if you count in what comes out of the jail. You mentioned that you have many of the worst of the worst. That implies that you are serving people with longer sentences. I discovered 60 years ago, when I first became involved in participating in in-house programs at Jackson State Federal Maximum Security Prison in Jackson, Michigan, that the people who made themselves available to take advantage of many of the in-house programs were long-termers, and the short-termers were hard nuts to crack. Have I heard since that this is a continuing problem? And do you face that?
That you're one of the few people that get it. People that have been locked up for a long time I'm not going to get into what's going on in their mind with regard to recognizing their role in their crime. But for sure, when people that have been locked up for a long time recognize that they're going to need some help when they get out, and they're willing to accept that help. The short timers, and boy, there's a lot of them now. Some of the people, it used to be 120 days was a short timer, right? 4 months. They're turning people around in less than 30 days now. They just kind of, about time they get to the prison, they're processing them back out. And what the issue with those individuals are is they, you know, they just don't feel like they missed a beat. They don't need any help. They, you know, they still, you know, they might not have even lost their place to live, that they were gone such a short amount of time. So when people, you know, when people don't recognize that they need help, it is a tougher nut to crack.
There's
We
a
love
question
the
in
people
chat.
that have been locked up 15 years. They come out, I mean, eager to accept help and eager to accept suggestions.
There's a question in chat. Oh, go ahead, Herb.
I was just quick comment. It did give me pause. The first program that I was involved with was somewhere between 12 and 20 inmates at Jackson, to discover that every single one of them was in for some variety of murder. It did make me a little careful.
And what you were doing, debating.
Yeah, we had a forensics program there. We were debating them before prison audiences. I wouldn't do that in prison. I wouldn't do that in the U.S. Congress now.
Okay, the question in chat.
Yeah, the question is, so the Rock is, we are not a residential facility. We are a resource center, so we're never full. We take as many people as possible, and everyone is welcome any day. If we have the resource from, even if they're not on probation and parole, we will still help them. But for the interaction, I'm not sure if they're full. I'll let Dan answer that question.
They we stay pretty full. And how do we prioritize it? It's first come, first serve. We do require a substance use disorder. Okay, so because so much of what we do, we're a Department of Mental Health certified clinical outpatient treatment program. So some of our funding is attached to treating substance use disorders. And that is a big part of facilitating success. So people have to have a substance use disorder. And just because of where we're located and out of respect for the neighbors, we do not serve people that have to register as a sex offender. But when I say first come, first serve, we don't keep a waiting list. And if you call or if we get an application and we have an empty bed, you can take it. And if we don't, we tell you that we're full. And you can try to apply again some other time.
I just offer a comment for some of us who remember Muleskinners a long time ago. One of the original founders was a local hero. He and his wife were both two of the most outstanding people I've ever known. They were Harold and Hazel Reback. And Harold owned and operated Reback Plumbing Company for many years. And Harold made it his mission and objective to hire as many people who just got out of the penitentiary as he possibly could, mentor them, help them merge their way back into society. He was a remarkable gentleman, and I don't know how many people in this vintage remember him, but just for the record, I thought I would mention that.
I would also
Awesome.
add about Hazel. Hazel was the volunteer coordinator at Mid-Missouri Mental Health Center. She was she and her husband and the Hesslers, Dick and Ann Hessler, had after people got out of Mid-Mo, they could be part of this local community activities once a week, and they sponsored that. But in addition, Hazel had real volunteer in the early 70s. I looked into it at one point. At the hospital, you could transport patients, you could take mail, but you were not supposed to talk about their illnesses or anything of substance with the people. At Mid-Mo, they wanted you to interact, and they wanted you to do real activities with the people. They were all ages. And so I'm just, and she later after she retired, became part of the board, which I don't know that there was ever a volunteer coordinator anywhere else in the state that had that much recognition to be that important to be part of that.
Thank you, Sue. You're exactly right. I'm so glad you expanded on Hazel because she was truly as much a hero as Harold was. And I know that you and I and all of us miss them dearly today. And they're unbelievable, unselfish, expansive, effective community service. And of course, their daughter, Vicki Reback Wilson, was our state representative for a number of years and is still a very active member in the Boone County community and one of the most respected there is. And her husband, who unfortunately passed away, Willie, was equally there. And their son, David, now was one of the establishers of the Ragtag Theater and is very active in the film festival and many other activities. So that family has spanned roots and enhanced the quality of this community and the world for many years. Thanks, Sue.
I would say I wouldn't have known about the volunteers, but I took care of personnel from the state merit system for all the mental health facilities in the state. And I was really surprised the difference that what Hazel did compared to other volunteer coordinators.
Pam, did you have a question or a comment?
I want to know about your funding.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have a very diverse stream of funding. So locally, we get some city funding. We get some county funding. Veterans United and other local foundations I think they're all supporting us to the degree that they can. We also state funding. We get Missouri Department of Economic Development funding. We get Missouri Department of Corrections funding, and we get Missouri Department of Mental Health funding. And at the national level, we get SAMHSA funding. And then we have private donors as well.
What is SAMHSA?
SAMHSA is and they're changing the name this year. And if anybody on the call, if they've already changed it, my apologies. SAMHSA has stood for Substance Abuse Mental Health Administration, and they're changing it to Substance Use Mental Health Administration because the term substance abuse is not a term that we use anymore. We use substance use. And that's out of the National Department of Health and Human Services, the federal agency, Health and Human Services.
Okay, thank you.
Wynn, did you have a question or comment?
Oh, I was wondering how many beds he has.
We have about close to 60 beds, between 55 and 60 beds. And they're all located in houses, if you saw that on the video. So when people come home from work at night, they really feel like they're coming home. They don't feel like they're going back to the facility or to the institution. And that's very much a part of our model.
Thank you.
Okay, I thank you very much, Stan and Jessica, for your presentation. And it's just been very enlightening.
It was.
Thank you for the opportunity to share and for the invitation.
Thank you for doing the work.
You're
Indeed,
welcome.
both of you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.